And we are live. Welcome to Crypto Law TV. I'm the founder of Crypto Law, John Deaton, and your host. Tonight, we're going to have a brief live stream, no more than 30 minutes, on something very important, and that is the summary judgment motion hearing that took place today in New Hampshire in the SEC versus LBRY case, a case that has significance and great importance in the crypto community, and one that's unfortunately not being followed by as many people that should be paying attention. And so I got a guest, we're going to bring him on, but a few observations. The hearing, as soon as I walked in the courtroom, the first thing I noticed was that you had a couple American entrepreneurs. You had their children were there, wives were there. This is a very symbolic point, because the SEC and what they're doing, people got to understand that their aggression into the crypto market and trying to expand it in a jurisdiction that they shouldn't be in. I mean, an asset class that they shouldn't be in, as far as non-ICOs. It destroys families, it destroys jobs, it destroys innovation. And we're going to talk about some of that today. But at the hearing, some very important things came out. The first one is the judge was well briefed. He was complimentary about the LBRY's attorney's brief that was very focused. The whole case of this hearing came down basically to what the judge called the third prong of Howey. Now, some of you out there, you've heard that there's 4 Howey factors, and some of you've heard there's 3. Some people say 3, some people say 4. All right. It's an investment, a common enterprise. That's 2, right? With a reasonable expectation of privacy, 3. Solely on the efforts of others, 4, but some people include the last 2 into 1. And the whole case today was focused on the reasonable expectation of privacy, expectation of profit, and whether or not those investors or acquirers were relying on the efforts of others. And that's what the whole hearing really focused on. The judge stated that he is going to strictly adhere to the First Circuit case of SEC versus SG. You can look it up, you can read it. I'm not going to get into all of that. The judge stated basically that he accepts the fact that the LBC token has utility. He stated that it is clear that some people are purchasing the LBC token for consumption, with consumptive intent and non-investment. That's a very important factor. He, of course, said there are people who have purchased LBC who are speculating for price appreciation. And that became a very important issue in this case, because the judge said that this case, the LBRY case, and it also applies to Ripple in the XRP case, is a unique case that has not been fully addressed by the appellate courts. He said it's what we call a mixed use case, right? Some people own the token and acquired it for consumption, and some people acquired it for investment. And how do you handle that? And the judge ended up near the end of the hearing saying to the SEC attorney, well, what if we were to look at every LBRY transaction and we were to come up and find out that 75% of the people acquired it for use and utility, right? To utilize the platform, and 25% investment. How does that make it a security or not security? Then the judge flipped it and said, well, what if the opposite is true? What if we were to learn 75% of the people acquired LBC for investment and 25% were for use? What language do I use? What standard do I apply? Is it a, principle? Is it, he asked for this. The SEC's attorney basically said something very dangerous. He said utility doesn't matter. And the SEC attorney conceded that some people acquire LBC for consumption and to utilize the blockchain. But he said to the judge, doesn't matter what the percentage is, even if it's 75% of the people who acquired it for use and non-investment. If an objectively can say that there was some expectation of profit, that it's a security. And I just want you to think about that for a minute, because that is so dangerous, because it's an umbrella that just usurps all kinds of asset classes. It would make every crypto, you could even argue that definition applies to Bitcoin in many instances. And that's why we're having this hearing. And what I want to do is, those are my general observations. The one criticism I have, and I'll share this with my important guest next, I will say this, and I'm hesitant to criticize attorneys because it's Monday morning quarterback, and I don't want to come off like that. But the one thing that I was very disappointed in is that there was no discussion about what the Hinman speech and what Jay Clayton talked about a lot, which was the transformation of an asset that could start out as a security, but then over time, as the ecosystem grows, it is no longer security. And there was no talk of that. For example, in LBRY, at the very beginning, the judge said there were only 4 videos on the platform. Well, today there's over 1 million users. So comparing 2017 and 2022 are 2 different things. It could be apples to oranges. And that was the main observation that I took away as far as if I were going to be critical. So with that said, I have a very special guest. I want to get his perspective, because his perspective is actually the most relevant and most important. He is the CEO and co-founder of LBRY, Jeremy Kaufman. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me on, John. And thank you so much for coming out, bringing attention to this very important case. You're doing great work.
Well, thank you very much. Listen, you heard my general observations. I just want to ask you, as you were sitting there, what's your trend? I know you tweeted out, but how are you feeling as you sit here today? Because, this is your child that you started, your vision. And, you've already been interviewed by me where you offered to give up your company, you offered to sell your assets, and the SEC wouldn't have anything to do with it. But how do you feel today?
I mean, I'm feeling great. I would feel great anyway, just reaching a conclusion, because one of the most worst aspects of this is the slow dripped torture of it. I've been dealing with this for almost 5 years, begging permission for how I can legally run this business and run this company. And I've never received a sentence of constructive feedback. A lot of the stuff today was great. You mentioned some of it in terms of the judge. One, the judge is a sophisticated guy. He's really trying to take a deep understanding. At the same time, he is still, an older gentleman who doesn't really understand technology or economics, but he is trying. He's clearly trying, and he's clearly an intelligent guy. So I'm not trying,
I agree.
So he's trying. So that's great to see. And the questions he's asking the SEC. Now, of course, the SEC wouldn't answer the judge these questions either, but they're the questions I have been begging. Everyone in the industry wants to know an answer to. What is the standard? And even in court, there isn't a single SEC official who is willing to articulate a standard that they're following. Now, you and I know the answer is because they don't have one. Right. They make it up as they go. They're flying by the seat of their pants. Because they have no morals, they have no code. They just want to get whoever they can. But it was great to see that the judge asking these questions. Well, what if LBRY had never made a promotional statement, and 75% of the purchasers were buying it for consumptive use? Would it still be a security? Now, the SEC said yes. Now that every person in the cryptocurrency industry should be terrified by that statement. And they also said it wouldn't matter if we weren't developing it. So in court, the SEC said, if we didn't develop the token, if the vast majority of the purchasing was for consumptive, non-speculative use, and the company never made a public statement, would a token sale still be a security? The answer is yes. Well, what does that mean? That means every sale of Ethereum is a security. That means every sale of every crypto asset, with the possible exception of Bitcoin, every other one, is a security. That is what the SEC was in court saying today. So every single, and by the way, I'm sweating because I don't have the AC on and it's 90-something degrees in here, so I'm not nervous, but it's very hot. But every official, every person in the cryptocurrency industry should be terrified by what the SEC said in court today, because they threw down and they said, if you are in the United States and you are selling cryptocurrency and you are running a cryptocurrency company, you are breaking the law. If you are a cryptocurrency developer who has sold a token that you are developing, you are breaking the law. Okay, that is what they said in court today.
Jeremy,
and that should terrify everyone.
Well, we'll even take it a step further. Do you recall at the moment the judge gave a hypothetical to the SEC attorney, and what he said was, what if a company came out and said, we're not going to do anything at all. We're just going to offer this token. We're not associated. We're not going to do any work with it or anything like that, right? We're not going to build on it. And the crypto industry will do its magic and the price will probably appreciate, but we're taking our hands off it from here. The SEC wants to call that a security.
Still a security. Everything is a security. Everything is a security to them. And this is insane. Now, one of the things the judge did recognize, and this was one of the things that made me optimistic, is he recognized the importance of the industry. He said it's a big industry. He said there are a lot, the judge had to respect for entrepreneurship, for American innovation. And he said, hey, there are a lot of Americans who are building companies. There are a lot of people who believe in this. And so he does understand. I think the judge honestly doesn't like the fact that he has to rule on this case. I think he feels like he's in a really tough position because the judge is clearly, he is, hesitant to set a precedent, right? He doesn't want to get overturned. And the SEC is coming and asking him to set a precedent one way or another because the judge has said, hey, he talked about this concept of mixed use, this idea that a number of people are using it for a consumptive purpose. And I will say the SEC, they admitted in court, the SEC prosecutor said, yeah, a substantial amount of people are clearly buying the LBRY token to use it. Okay. So by the way, again.
Well, what did you think when that was brought up? And I wrote this down. The SEC attorney actually said to the judge, because the judge said, will you concede that some of these people, a lot of these acquirers of the LBC token are using it for consumption and not investment? And the SEC attorney agreed because he had to, but then he said, utility doesn't matter.
Utility doesn't matter. They're creating a new standard in real time here. Look, in my view, it's an open shut case. But here's the thing. I have an incredibly low and pessimistic view of the American justice system, right? So the fact that I think it's an open and shut case, I don't know that means much because we've seen the United States justice system output a number of cases that are, quite frankly, incomprehensible to anyone with a basic sense of logic. So, I don't, to me, actually making a prediction, I would defer to you. I would defer to my attorneys because you guys model the courts. I think they're insane.
I will tell you this, your insight is on point about something. And, I won't sugarcoat it. I left being a more pessimistic than I was when I got there. Okay. And I picked up on, that doesn't mean I think that you're losing or anything, right? Because it was that judge's hesitation. And before I can make a prediction, I'm going to have to study that SG case. The judge basically said, and you tell me if I'm misspeaking, that he was going to strictly apply to the language and everything of that SG case from the First Circuit. And the feeling that I got, and you're on point, is saying the judge is hesitant. I think he's uncomfortable about this decision because he kept saying, he said at least 5 times, I need to know what standard, which you just said a few minutes ago, what language do I apply? When there is a mixed use case, when some of these people are using it and acquiring it just for use, and some are clearly for price appreciation and speculation, what do I use? What standard do I use? What language? He even said, what formula do you suggest I use, right? And I know that your attorney, LBRY, said you go with the principle kind of approach, and that if it's principally for use, then it clearly should not be a security. I'm dumbing it down, but that's in essence what I thought he said. You tell me.
But this is insane, right? But this is insane. But that's why he got to, well, if it's the principal standard, then 75, 25, 25, 75, how does it change? The judge then stated that would be an absurd standard because it wouldn't be a standard that could be determined.
Right.
I will say that all of this then, though, brings it back to fair notice because, which we didn't get into much in court today, but to me, look, I don't mean to be a cocky guy, but I'm a lot smarter than the average person. And this law is absolutely indecipherable. It's indecipherable how to apply these tests to these cases. The judge doesn't know how to apply the standard. Like the judge is in court and clearly confused as to what the law says. Well, if the judge is confused to what the law says, a guy who studies it professionally, By what standard could an average person understand what the law says? I mean, that to me makes it open and shut again right there. If the idea that an average person is supposed to be able to understand the law and the judge is in court saying, I don't understand the law, well, then how could the average person understand the law, right? You would think that would be sufficient. Right. But no, the judge, and certainly one of my worries is he's going to say, well, you know what? The SEC knows the law. We ought to trust the regulators, because he is that kind of, conservative type. And so that's certainly one of my worries is that he goes that way and says, well, look, the SEC says it's a security, they probably know what they're talking about.
Well, let me ask you, because and I interviewed you on Crypto Law TV, as you know, months ago, and you had explained to the viewers that you and your team went into the SEC and you took the Hinman speech and you gave a PowerPoint presentation, right? When Hinman said, well, we're going to set aside the initial fundraising or the early sales, whatever you want to describe it, but today's Ether is not a security, and that you all went in there and explained how that LBC sort of meets that same Ethereum standard, if you will. Do you know why there was no talk about, well, Judge, even if, when there were only 4 videos, as you're talking about on the platform in the early days, the ecosystem today, we got 1.2 million users. So even
per day, by the way, I meant to correct, we're getting 1.5 to 2 million users per day. That's not total quantity of users. Total number of users who have ever accessed the network, we're talking about 50 million, maybe 100 million at this point, people who have used LBRY. So, and we're talking about 4, yeah, sure, there were 4 videos on day 1 when it launched. Today, there are over 15 million videos. Right. So it's like, what's the standard? It's like, and again, and this is what's so absurd about all this. It's like, there is this, we're supposed to have a rule of law. We're supposed to have objective standards. One of the first things the SEC should do is say, well, if Ethereum wasn't a security or was a security and it isn't one now, I think they should be able to say on April 20th, 2017, that's when Ethereum morphed. I mean, because obviously these people are calling balls and strikes. They have objective standards, so it shouldn't be too hard for them to state the exact day and time which it morphed. I mean, they're not making it up as they go. So if they're not making it up as they go, then they can just say when it changed, because they're using this objective standard that they have. Of course, they don't. They're complete liars and sociopaths. And by the way, for the SEC people listening to this, I don't want to get John's channel in trouble, but there is a legal solution to the evil that you have done. Okay, you can Google it. You can take care of this problem yourself, and you can eliminate the harm that you have done. Okay, so there's a solution out there. It exists, and I suggest that you take care of it. That's my suggestion to those people out there, because they are beyond evil. What they are no different than robbers and vandals and murderers. They are the worst kind of people in the world. What these people do, all right, absolutely disgusting.
Let me go back to that question though that I asked, because I'm someone who makes a big deal between day 1, 4 videos, today, millions. Were you surprised that there wasn't that kind of distinction? It seems like it's an all or nothing kind of argument. And I think there's a way. I think that the judge could decide, similar with XRP, the judge could say, well, these first early sales, because the ecosystem was so young, maybe they meet Howey, but clearly not today. Right. And I just don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Sure. I don't care. It's all fake. If I have to admit that some early sales were securities, I don't care. Of course, no one was hurt. No one was defrauded. It's all fake. I don't care. If that gets me out of it, I'll admit to whatever. I've told the SEC that plenty of times. Okay. Right. The SEC has said, we want to go to the mat. Look, again, this case is part of the SEC setting a precedent that will establish that every single cryptocurrency developer, operator, builder, exchange, it is all illegal. That is what this precedent will do. That is why the SEC is going to MAT. We offered the SEC millions of dollars in settlement money. We offered the SEC lots of things. They declined all of it and chose to bring this case. They chose to go all the way. Why would they do that? Why would they do that if they're not trying to accomplish something bigger than this case?
Well, I think that is a perfect way. You just summed it up, the importance and why people, when the XRP case was filed, I filed the writ of mandamus 9 days later. There's part of me that trusts me. That's why I came here today. I wished I was involved in your case, because I think that everything that I argue about XRP equally applies, and in some instances applies more to the LBC token. And I have no hesitation in saying that. But what you just summarized about the SEC's intent, and that's what this case is about. And you just summarized it. So listen, I just wanted to come online, bring you here, because I don't think the industry has recognized the importance of this case. You've been fighting not just for you and your survival, your library's survival, and your users' ability to continue this platform, but I wish you the best. That's all I can say.
Thank you, John. I have so much respect for you. You know, you came out, you did the right thing, and I wish there were more people like you out there. But I have immense respect for you. I have immense respect for the XRP community, who's really rallied behind us and who has supported us. I hope XRP is vindicated in court. I hope, I hope this is a dream, but the SEC should be abolished. I mean, this is all fake. Someone's got to be defrauded. Someone's got to say that you lied to me, you cheated me. I mean, they're going around policing victimless crimes. The war on crypto is no different. It's a new war on drugs. Okay, it's what they're trying to do is insane. It's not even possible, of course, right? You can't actually shut down crypto, but what they can do is hurt a lot of innocent people and waste a lot of money in the process, and that's exactly what we're about to see happen.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, John. Yeah.
All right. A couple closing remarks for everyone. Before I summarize this important day today, I just want to make a comment. I know there's a lot of people that probably were expecting me to comment about the pending motion to throw John Deaton and amicus out of the case, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to address it. Stand by on Monday. I will file that answer, and I'll state everything that I need to state to the judge, not just here on YouTube. But I want everyone to appreciate what Jeremy stated. This man offered to dissolve the company. He offered to sell all his assets at auction. There's been no fraud alleged. There's been no misrepresentation alleged. There's been no omission alleged. Yet the SEC has refused this entire time to even talk settlement. So when you offer everything to settle and you say, okay, it's not about me, I'll sell everything I own associated with it, and they still won't budge, why? And I think Jeremy stated why. This case, right, just like the XRP case, is about the SEC getting their hands on the entire crypto industry. You know, obviously, possibly with the exception of Bitcoin. And when you take the SEC's intent and you take the Bitcoin maximalism, which will support what the SEC is doing, we got a large fight, okay, to continue ahead of us. And so thank you, everybody, for being with me. I'll see you next time.